everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you're located in the world. So my name is Marilyn Lau, and I'm with the USC Viterbi School of Engineering Admission and Student Engagement team. And it is my pleasure to welcome you to our Spotlight series today, where we will be highlighting our astronautical engineering graduate programs. So we are joined by Professor Mike Gruntman, who will be sharing the information on the degree programs. And then we'll also be going through some frequently asked questions afterwards. We also have with us today Luis Sabayo, who is the Director of Student Affairs, and he will be joining as well to contribute to the Q&A session as well. So thank you both for taking your time in going through and doing today's Spotlight webinar. So just some quick facts for those of you who are joining us with the live for the live session. I do want to mention that we will be sending out a copy of today's presentation deck. So, there's a lot of information that we will be going through. So there is no need for you to jot it down because you will receive them within 1 to 2 business days. And for those of you who are watching this webinar as a recording at a later time, please do note that the content that we are discussing is as of today, November 18th. And we always recommend for you to visit our website for the most updated information. In terms of asking questions, we highly encourage you to ask any questions that you have. You can do so by popping it into the chat or Q&A box, and then we'll be able to answer those questions. And there is also a Q&A session at the end as well. And, whether your questions are for, Professor Gruntman or it's about the application process, we'll be able to answer those questions as they come through. So today's program, I will be talking about the University of Southern California, for those of you who are not familiar with our academic institution, and then a little bit about our Viterbi School of Engineering. And then I'll talk about Den of Viterbi, which is our online delivery method, as well as, what the different types of enrollment options that we have as a Den of Viterbi student, and then the tuition and fees. And then I'll pass it over to Professor Gruntman, who will be taking everyone through the Astronautical Engineering Master's program, as well as, giving a overview of not only the program, but of the department itself, and then the application criteria as well. And then we'll go ahead and conclude with a Q&A. So a little bit about University of Southern California. So we are the oldest private university in the Western United States. We were founded back in 1880. We do have over 47,000 students and over 4,700 full-time faculty. And our student population is extremely diverse. So our students come from all different walks of life. And we are located in Los Angeles, around like a 20-minute drive from downtown Los Angeles, as well as, from the aviation corridor and also the Silicon Beach area as well. So we are in a prime location. A little bit about Viterbi School at a glance. So, we do have 8 academic departments within Viterbi School, and the Astronautical Engineering Department is one of the academic departments. We have over 213 tenure track faculty, 16 full-time, 34 total TTNA members, and over 100 National Science Foundational Career and National and Presidential Young Investigator. Alongside faculty does come research. So, we are a leader in funded research. So our faculty members do conduct a lot of research along, with the support of the doctoral students. We do have over 35 research centers, and more than $177 million are invested in research expenditures annually. And, I'm pretty sure Professor Gruntman later on will be talking about some of the research that he does and publishes with everyone as well. And in terms of student population, as of the fall 2023 numbers, Viterbi School has over 6,800 graduate students. And, this number does include the master students, so both on campus and online, as well as our doctoral students. A little bit about rankings. So we understand rankings are not everything, but they are somewhat important when you're determining, which graduate academic institution is the one for you. So from the 2024 ranking report from US News and World Report, USC Viterbi does continue to be, top ranked, to be a top ranked graduate engineering program when it comes to the best engineering graduate schools. And in particular for our online graduate programs, for the best online graduate engineering programs, we were ranked number 6 for our online computer science program and number 8 for our online graduate engineering program. So we do continue to be, within the top 10 ranked. And for those of you who are veterans, for the best online graduate engineering programs for veterans, we were ranked number 4 for our online computer science program for veterans and number 11 for our online graduate engineering programs for veterans. So a little bit more about, kind of the different, research centers we have, for example, over here. So as I mentioned in the previous slide, Viterbi School is a leader in funded research. We do allocate a lot of money for research to be done. And so, our research centers are highly interdisciplinary. So the research environment, you're able to kind of tap into different areas. For example, here we have our Space Engineering Research Center. And also, there's a completely a variety of research areas that you can really focus on, whether it's software engineering, vision sciences, and then we have the Institute for Creative Technologies, Information Sciences Institute as well. Okay, and then a little bit about the points of distinction. So, USC in general has an international reputation for excellence. So kind of anywhere that you are in the world, if you're wearing a USC sweater or a USC hat, you already kind of have that rapport and that immediate connection with the other alumni or other Trojan, because that's kind of what the Trojan Family Network is as well. And within USC Viterbi alone, we do have over 88,000 engineers strong. And when it comes to, what type of engineering programs that are available, we have online, which is through Dana Viterbi, on site at companies' sites, and on campus at USC's campus. And we also offer a complete range of programs such as doctoral and master's and graduate certificates. And we do also offer short courses and custom programs through our executive education arm. We also offer 2 delivery methods when it comes to pursuing your graduate program. So we have on campus, which is, usually when students tend to be studying on a full-time basis. So they're usually not working and they're, coming to USC's campus and taking their classes in person. So they tend to take maybe 3 classes or 4 classes per semester. So essentially, they usually can graduate between 1.5 to 2 years. And then we have our online delivery method, which is through Dana Viterbi. So, around 80 to 85% of our online students, they are working professionals. So they're, working in the industry and they're pursuing their degree on a part-time basis. They essentially take around 1 to 2 classes per semester. And usually, they can complete their degree between 2.5 to 3 years. So how does Dana Viterbi work? So USC Viterbi, has been doing distance education learning since 1972. So we have over 50 years of experience in the distance education arena. Dana Viterbi is our own proprietary web-based delivery system that enables students from all over the world to access classes live or on demand. So if you're able to watch classes live, you can stream in, or you could also come and attend lectures in person. So Dana Viterbi students do have a physical seat in every class that they enroll in. But if you're not able to watch it live, no worries. You can always watch it as a recording afterwards. So it is both synchronous and asynchronous. As a Dana Viterbi student, you will still view the same lectures as on-campus student. So, the content is fresh every semester. So our faculties, they don't recycle content because they do want to ensure as well that, what our students are learning in the classroom is, the most updated, trending, and from the curriculum that they can, really adapt back into their day-to-day. And, some students, find it extremely helpful because they may be, facing a similar, you know, um, a similar kind of project scenario at their office. And so they're really able to tackle it by the learnings that they are getting from the faculty member in the classroom in terms of, problem solving. And also, Den students will also submit their homework electronically, and they will also be able to still, participate in highly interactive discussions with their professors and their peers. And Den students will take exams at a proctor testing center located either near their home or their work. But if you're residing in the LA, Orange County, or Ventura counties, then you will be expected to take your exams at USC's campus. So this slide here kind of shows you a comparison between, being an online Den student and an on-campus student. As you can see, there is no difference when it comes to the program admissions. You do need to submit the USC graduate application and the required materials. The weekly course lectures is online with interactivity as an online Dan student. And all Dan students will have access to the online course archives, such as lectures and course documents. They will also take exams, at a proctor location. And the assignments will be submitted electronically, but as you can see as well that the course deadline dates are the same. Courses per semester is kind of where it varies a little bit. As I mentioned, because the majority of our online Dan students are working professionals, they tend to take 1 to 2 courses per semester. But the degree completion requirements is the same. You do need to complete between 27 to 37 units, and you do need to have at least a 3.0 GPA or above. So ultimately, when you do complete your degree, your diploma is just going to be issued by USC Viterbi, and there is no distinction on there that you are an online student or an on-campus student. And this is how a Dan Viterbi classroom looks like on campus. So Dan Viterbi classrooms, we do have a live moderator or a host, sitting in the back of each Den classroom, just to make sure that the lectures are recorded from all different angles for our students who are either watching it live or as a recording afterwards on their own time. And as you can see, there are students who are sitting in the classroom in person with the professor. And these could be, Den students, or it could be on-campus students as well. So you will still be able to attend classes and learn from on-campus students if they enroll in a Den section. Some additional information. We do have another enrollment option called limited status. So limited status is an enrollment option, that is offered through the online delivery method, where it really allows strong qualified candidates with a strong academic background to begin coursework by taking a class or two before submitting an application for formal admissions. So in addition to the standard background requirements for limited status enrollments, such as having a 3.0 GPA and the relevant academic background, for the astronautical engineering, you do also need to have, coursework in physics. So as a limited status student, you can take only a maximum of 12 units, and those units can be applied towards the degree program once you are admitted for formal admissions. It's also important to note as well that, being limited status also does not guarantee you admissions to the formal degree, and you do need to submit an application as well. So for those of you who are interested in getting started as a limited status student by taking a class, you can get started as early as spring 2025, which begins on January 13th, 2025. And in terms of, tuition deferment programs, so This is available for students who are supported by a company. You can defer your payment of tuition up to 90% until after the semester is over. You do, however, have to meet some specific requirements and complete some required process every semester. For more information, you could always visit our employer reimbursement page on our website. And this is the tuition rates for the graduate engineering and computer science within the USC Viterbi School as for this academic year actually as well. So as you can see, the current per unit rate is 2543, and it really gives you an idea of how much a 3-unit course and a 4-unit course would cost. So the tuition is the same for on-campus and online students. And I do want to make a note that, there are some smaller mandatory fees, that would be incurred as well, such as proctoring fees, for example, for online Dana Viterbi students. And it's also important to note that, the tuition and fees are subject to change without notice. And we always recommend for students to visit our website for the most updated tuition and fees. In terms of application deadline, so spring 2025 does begin on January 13th, 2025. So if you are interested in pursuing your degree as an online Dana Viterbi student, we may be able to accept applications still on a case-by-case basis. So if you are interested, please email me at dana@viterbi.usc.edu for more information. And it's really important to note that Dana Viterbi students, are not eligible for a student visa sponsorship. So the application extension would be only available to online Dana Viterbi students. If you are interested in on-campus delivery method, we do encourage you to submit your application for fall 2025. So fall term does begin in August of next year, and the deadline to submit all required materials and your application is December 15th, which is just next month. So yeah, so we encourage you to submit your application for then. So what are some steps about getting started, as a Dana Viterbi student or as an on-campus student? This slide here is really helpful for you. If you are interested in, getting a tour of campus, we do have, virtual visits available on the link there. And then as an online Dana Viterbi student, you could submit an application for formal degree for the formal admissions as well as for limited status for spring 2025. Okay, so I know all of you guys have joined to hear from Professor Mike Gruntman. So Professor Mike Gruntman, he is a program director of the Master of Science in Astronautical Engineering, and he's also the professor of astronautical engineering. So he's done a lot of research in astronautics, spacecraft and space mission design, space physics, space instrumentation and sensors, space plasmas, spacecraft technologies, rocketry, propulsion, and orbital debris are just some of the research that he's done. He's also, authored and co-authored more than 300 scholarly publications. And, once I send the slides out to everyone, you can actually, click on the hyperlinks for the scholarly publications and the 6 books as well to kind of see that that extensive accomplishments that he has done. So, thank you so much, Professor Gruntman, for joining us, and a very, very warm welcome.
All right. Thank you, Marilyn, for your kind introduction. Greetings, everybody. And during my talk, I will clarify a few things that Marilyn mentioned. It's primarily about process, but I want to immediately say, Marilyn mentioned that physics is required, nothing special. It's a standard physics that all engineering students are taking. And this reference actually is here because when we have applicants with the computer science background, sometimes Bachelor of Science degrees in computer science do not require full-scale physics like in other engineering areas like mechanical, EE, and the chemical and civil engineering. So then we require such students to take maybe an extra physics course in a community college. The same sometimes happens with mathematics majors that may not have enough, don't have the full complement of physics courses. And we actually also have in our program periodically enrolling medical doctors because they want to become an astronaut and or something like that, or move to space. So again, nothing special about physics. Next slide. I will briefly talk about the department, faculty, research areas, and then we'll concentrate on the degree of Master of Science in Astronautical Engineering. This is exactly why you are here. We'll talk about students, coursework, and a little bit more about criteria for applicants. Marlene mentioned the uh, limited status, which is very important. If you have 3.0 from an accredited university in the Bachelor of Science, you can start studies within a week. You can get approved. Really, it's real quick. So our staff does fantastic job on that. So you can start taking courses as in a limited status in the spring. It's no problem, still plenty of time. And another thing I want to mention that about our program, there are publications in the peer-reviewed engineering journals and presentations at a couple conferences, Astronautical Congress, AIAA conferences. So there's a link on this page where you can see about the program articles, 4 articles. You can just click there, download, and get a detailed information. Next slide, please. So the department is relatively new. We celebrated 20th anniversary this year. We're 20 years old. And we are an unusual department. In a little bit later, I will just tell you a little bit more because we're purely space engineering. As you know, in the United States, space engineering is part of aerospace departments. And only a couple programs, primarily in the military educational institutions, have pure space components. We are basically the only national major space engineering program standing as a separate department, and there are a lot of reasons for that. And again, in these publications that I mentioned, there's a lot of discussion of that, but basically traditional aerospace departments still treat space engineering as a second rate type citizenship in the engineering aerospace world. So we brought it to the forefront, and the program growth clearly demonstrates that we meet the requirements of the space industry and government centers. So we were formed 20 years ago. I served as the chairman, founding chairman, then I was again chairman. So we are faculty alternating in these positions. And our program really started in the mid 1990s when it first started as a specialization within aerospace the field. The next slide, please. We offer the full set of degrees: a Bachelor of Science minor, Master of Science, Engineer, PhD, graduate certificate. On the Master of Science level, we are among the largest programs in the country. There will be a little bit more statistics there, and you will see why we're among the largest. And our faculty and students engaged in the research, and so is again education in the space engineering, focused on the rapidly growing worldwide space enterprise. Next slide, please. The department is relatively small in terms of the full-time faculty. On the left, there's a list of faculty. It's basically 5 or 6 people full-time on campus. But what we have more than 2 dozens of part-time lecturers that are coming who are active, practicing engineers and scientists in the space industry. And Los Angeles is in Southern California, which is a center of the space enterprise. We have a number of government research centers like the Aerospace Corporation, the Jet Propulsion Laboratory. Others, we have some legacy aerospace companies heavily engaged in the defense and space areas like Lockheed Martin, Boeing, Northrop Grumman, Raytheon, and we have a number of the smaller companies, high-tech companies in the space engineering. So they are leading scientists and engineers working in these companies, teaching our program specialized courses. And this is what made our program so distantly different from many other programs in the country and attracted a lot of students, particularly on the master's level. So it's again, we're relatively small in terms of full-time faculty, but most of our courses in the master's program are taught by the top practicing specialists in industry, and some of them are listed here. Next slide, please. Our faculty and lecturers, USC is a leading research university. The School of Engineering qualifies on its own as a leading research university in terms of research and the quality of the faculty. So, and just to show you that our faculty in our department in astronautical engineering, that we are representative what you can find in any leading research university. So this is just not only papers, articles that we are publishing in the peer review publications, but these are just books that came out from our faculty and lecturers, and you may even recognize some of them on their covers that you might have used them in your studies, in particular space mission analysis and design, SMED books. The next slide, please. On the campus, though the number of faculty members is relatively small, we're still engaged in all areas relevant to space engineering. It's space environment, interactions, mission design, sensors, space science, spacecraft propulsion, some advanced areas like computational high-performance computing for non-equilibrium processes. Our faculty are co-investigators and principal investigators on the many programs supported by the NASA, the Air Force, Space Force, Navy, industry. We participated in a variety of various space missions. And on the student level, our department is the home for very important rocket propulsion lab and liquid propulsion lab, which are the student groups that are advancing science and engineering. A lot of students are really engaged in that, spend a lot of time. And if you followed news, this week it hit the wire that a couple of weeks ago, our rocket propulsion laboratory launched the rocket to the altitude that was never done by anybody in the world except governments and industry. So among the amateur rocket rates, the highest for more than 400,000 feet. The next slide, please. And as any group in the leading research universities, we collaborate with a lot of people inside the university, various departments in engineering and physics and astronomy. And also we have very well developed external collaborations. Again, this is typical for all leading research universities in the United States. There are American universities, Berkeley, Arizona, Massachusetts, and others, NASA centers, JPL, Goddard, Marshall, Department of Energy, national labs such as Los Alamos, other research institutions, industry, and a lot of international collaborations. Next slide, please. Now, our program is designed for students with Bachelor of Science degrees in science and engineering. We do not require Bachelor of Science degree in aerospace engineering. And this is and this is actually what made the program so attractive for many people in the industry, because the space industry, space and defense industries, they hire engineers of all flavors, chemical, electrical, mechanical, civil, you name it, and also physics, astronomy, and mathematics. They work in space industry. This is their passion, but they, in order to grow further, for example, to get to such attractive positions as the system engineer of the major spacecraft or a major payload, you need to have some space education, and they cannot go to the aerospace departments in many other universities in the country, because many other universities would require Bachelor of Science degree in aerospace engineering in order to pursue a degree in aerospace there. So we said, no, we'll take everybody with a degree in science and engineering, as long as you have undergraduate physics and math, standard that engineering students would take regardless of their major, and then we will take you from there. So that's why we really reflect what's happening in the space and defense enterprise. And that's why as we get so many students coming from a space industry. As I mentioned, astronautics faculty is relatively small full-time. We teach some fundamental classes, but adjunct faculty and lecturers from outside teach most of the specialized courses. The next slide, please. Our students. In our program, I'm talking only about master's students, obviously. Full-time on-campus students are roughly one half, and one half of our students are coming through distance education. We have students spread all over across the country, also in Canada and sometimes in other countries, particularly if the military are stationed there. We have some active duty military officers. We have a background of our students coming from all possible flavors of engineering and the physics and astronomy, mathematics as well. And also, as I mentioned, sometimes medical doctors enroll and some other specialists that want to get our degree, and then we ask them to take physics and mathematics if needed in a community college standard courses. Next slide, please. On the right, you see the figure of the growing number of the degrees that we awarded since the beginning of the department. You can also see the spread between the on-campus and online students. So today is roughly 50-50, as I said, and during the last 20 years, we graduated nearly 1,000 Master of Science degrees. Now, we constitute the national statistics does not distinguish between the space areas and aeronautical areas, so related to the fluid mechanics in aeroplanes. So everything is together. So we cannot compare with other space-focused programs, but we can compare for the much broader aerospace field where the statistics is. And our master's program accounts for, say, 3, 4, or even 5% of nationally awarded master's degrees in the broad aerospace field. And if you think about this, if there are 60 to 70 aerospace programs in the country, our Master of Science program is twice or even maybe 2.5 times larger than the average aerospace program in the country. So we're really, really big. And the figure on the top left just shows where our students coming from to our program. You see practically all states in the United States where we have space enterprise. When I'm saying space enterprise, industry and government centers. Next slide, please. We have also presence on the LinkedIn. So if you become a member of this group, you can reach our former alumni and sometimes get help in finding jobs and everything else. Next slide, please. All right. What are the admission requirements in the coursework? As I mentioned, you need to have a Bachelor of Science degree in science or engineering, hard sciences, obviously, only, and engineering, and no bachelor's aerospace degree required. All other admission requirements are standard, GPA larger than 3.0. We usually required GRE, but their GREs were suspended by the university during the COVID. And because of that, so we did not restore it yet. So they may be restored or maybe not in the future. Nobody knows. But again, we follow the School of Engineering policy. In order to get our degree, you need to complete 9 courses. All courses are 3 units. There are 4 required courses. They're in space, basically fundamentals of space systems, space environment and space interactions, spacecraft propulsion and rocketry, and orbital mechanics. Then students should choose 3 core elective courses from the list of astronautical courses. And in addition, 2 more technical electives can be selected either from the same list of core elective courses or from any other science or engineering course that is offered at USC. Master of Science thesis is optional, so it's possible but not required, but most of the students choose not to do the thesis, but rather to take a couple more courses for the same credit as the thesis would provide, because the variety of courses that is offered by us is very often the prime reason why the students are coming to our program. And the next slide, please. So we have really a very large number of courses offered, and they are grouped here, they're color coded in the different areas. There's a cluster of the space dynamics, orbital mechanics, attitude dynamics, control, cluster of spacecraft and rocket propulsion courses, cluster of the subsystems that you can find on satellites, on the design of space systems. And there's 2 other areas that recently were under development, and they're becoming more and more important in space enterprise. It's the safety of space missions on the right, so it's a growing cluster of courses. And also we were lucky to bring a few years ago a former astronaut, NASA astronaut, on our faculty, full-time faculty, and he's building up a human spaceflight a cluster of courses, so all of them are very popular. So again, with this diversity of courses and this selection really unmatched in the country, and this is what made the program very, very attractive. Again, a few courses in this list are taught by full-time faculty who are qualified, but majority of the courses are taught by the real top-notch leaders in the industry and government centers who are world recognized specialists, and they bring the current practices and the current state of the art in the space industry. The next slide, please. So criteria for applicants, again, they are more or less standard, the same 3.0 for GPA. GREs were waived, although we recommend to take them because, again, if it will make you more competitive. We also require 2 letters of recommendation, professional letters. And the next slide. So common questions. So here, before we get to these questions, I will make some comments to clarify a few things. First of all, as I said, no special physics requirements, so it's a standard physics that you need to have. Now, Marilyn mentioned that for distance students, the students taking our degree through DEN at Viterbi, through Distance Education Network online, that exams are proctored at your location. This was really common practice before the COVID. So when the COVID struck, everybody moved into online. And now coming out of this pandemic, we can still have the same arrangement as it was before COVID, that for remote students, there will be proctoring at, say, at local community college or by educational coordinators if it's a big company where somebody works. But what happened, most of the instructors continue to have exams electronically. So, for example, in our program, I think nobody turned to the proctoring of the exams and bringing students for on-campus for example, midterms and finals. So all exams are electronics by our faculty at this time, although again, the option of proctoring does exist. So this turned out to be very convenient, and students can do it basically in the convenience of their homes to take the exams at certain time slots that are allocated. And the system works very well. I want just to mention that our distance educational network was established in 1970. So it's one of the oldest in the country, one of the most advanced in terms of technologies being used. So we really know what we are doing. And from that point of view, it's very convenient. Now, the lectures are offered on campus in a special in a classroom that's specially equipped. We call them studios. So the on full-time students are in the room during the lectures, but simultaneously the lectures are being through the WebEx and or other tools being broadcast for the remote students. Next morning, the recorded lecture is on the server of the school, and students have access to this lecture until the end of the semester as many times as needed. This is a very good option because you can address the areas that you may have difficulty in terms of content or substance. You can get and just watch or re-listen those parts as many times as needed. Again, this is very helpful. Also, from my experiences among the remote students, perhaps 1/3 or maybe 40% watch lectures live. Otherwise, they watch them asynchronously. On-campus students, some of them also could skip the lecture and then watch later when it's needed. So it's really to optimize your time as a student, because again, for undergrads, you may need to bring some discipline, crack the whip. You are graduate students, it's a graduate program, you are professionals. So really, whatever works for you, we're here to help you with that. Now, common questions, as Marilyn mentioned, full-time students usually take, say, 1.5 years, maybe 2 years to get the degree. For part-time students, it's 1 or 2 courses per semester, so it's becoming 3-4 years. Course sequence is entirely up to students. You don't have to take required courses before electives. Many electives do not have prerequisite requirements. The exceptions are, for example, if you want to take a course in liquid propulsion, you have to have an introductory course in propulsion. Where if you want to have a course in solid propulsion, you have to have a first course in propulsion. The same if you want to take a course in space navigation, you have to have a course in orbital mechanics first. So, but many introductory courses, as for example, thermal control on satellites or something similar, they would not require prerequisites. So it's again, the course sequence is up to a student, and we as a faculty, we stand here to help you to craft your program that best meets your educational needs. If you have a required course that you took something similar in your undergraduate studies, it happens with propulsion, for example, with introductory propulsion, you don't need to repeat a course. We waive it and you take a technical electives of your choice instead. You can take elective courses from other departments. Again, we approve practically everything. We will not approve cooking, golf, or French language, but anything science and engineering. And if our remote students come to Los Angeles for business or private trips, and they very often come to campus to attend lectures live, you are very much welcome. And as many students took this opportunity to introduce themselves, to talk to the instructors. And again, it's a standard things, no special permissions are needed. And the important thing also, I would like just to finish by mentioning that when a program has an online component, an engineering program, and this online component grows as ours does, this is a clear indication that program provides something of true value for engineers in industry and government centers. And the reason that I'm saying that, because if you work in a legacy company such as Boeing, Lockheed Martin, Raytheon, NASA JPL, Naval Research Lab, Los Alamos, then engineers there could choose basically any engineering program to pursue Master of Science degree, and their tuition is being supported by their employer. If they choose a certain online program, that means, and again, they can choose any in the country. If they choose some program, that means this program brings something of true value for engineering education. And our program during the last 20 years after the inception skyrocketed. Pun intended, we almost got into the space with in terms of numbers. And the last slide, I think it will be the next. Yes, so these are the contact information. Marilyn is here, and also on the department side on the left, Luis Ceballos is present here. It's our student advisor, very knowledgeable. There's also our administrator Ms. Croissant, and my contact information is here. And again, the link to the publications about the program with a lot of information. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Gruntman, for all that information. So thank you so much. That was really, really, really informative. And I hope everyone, who is joining also, is digesting all that exciting updates and info. So I do want to allow some time for some Q&A. So if anyone has any questions, for Professor Gruntman, or about the application process, please go ahead and pop that into the chat right now. So I'll go ahead and allow some time for everyone to pop in their questions. And if you guys don't have any questions right now, and you have questions afterwards, you can always reach out to me at dana@viterbi.usc.edu. If you're interested in the online delivery method, if you're interested in on-campus, you could reach out to our on-campus recruitment team at viterbi.gradprograms@usc.edu, or I could always redirect you and connect you with our colleagues. If you have questions, about the academic, we do, I can also connect you with Louise as well, and he'll be able to provide any insight in terms of the from the department standpoint, in terms of
So there's a question.
Yeah, so for the Astios, for the, I believe it's the Astro
Yeah, for the
certificate
certificate.
program. Yeah, would the quick app process still be available? I apologize for naming that process.
It's probably Louis would know exact answer, but I think probably positive. But Louis, you could confirm that. Do we have the limited admission accelerated process for the
Limited
certificate?
status.
For the
Yeah.
certificate.
Yeah, so limited status is still available for spring 2025. So there is no deadline date.
No, but the
submit
question is for certificate, not for the degree. So I think yes, but
Okay.
I think Louis could
Louise, yeah, would you be able to?
chase down
So
this and
for the spring semester, if the student would want to apply for the certificate for in-person modality, it's already past the deadline. If they would want to do it through DEN, Maryland and the DEN team, we
no
can support to extend.
no. This is for the as a limited student. Can a student get admitted as a limited to the certificate program? So this is the question, because there was limited
Yes.
is the yeah, answer is yes, right?
Yes.
Yes. So
Mhm.
we figured out collectively.
Yes. Yeah. So you could still so you would create your DEN profile for spring 2025 by taking a class, for example, in spring, and then you could submit an application for the following semester for the graduate certificate program. Yeah, and I am hosting some limited status webinars as well this upcoming month, so I kind of take everyone through how to create your DEN profile. So
Maryland,
join
if
me
I
for
may
that.
ask, when would
Yeah.
be like the tentative deadline to submit limited status to
Yeah.
students for since we close campus around winter recess?
Yeah, so for limited status, we usually recommend for students to to create their DAN profile at least a week before. But I would say, given it will be winter break, if they could do it maybe by mid December, then that'll be good. But even within that first, even within that first week of January as well,
Okay,
yeah, we are still going to be accepting the limited status profiles.
sounds
We
great.
usually recommend at least a week before the start of the term. Mhm.
Yeah. So it's
Yeah.
really, really quick. But everybody must have 3.0.
Yes. Yeah.
This is a
So
must.
yeah, correct. Yeah. So to be eligible for limited status, you do need to have at least a 3.0 GPA from your undergraduate institution, and you do need to have that relevant background, as you know, Professor Gruntman highlighted as well. Making sure that you do have physics courses under your belt. Okay, another question. So what do GRE scores tend to be for the astronautical and perhaps PhD applicants? As well, do you know if PhD candidates complete a traditional master's first before their screening exam?
Okay, so let me just comment on that. We
Yeah.
do not, as a matter of policy, we do not publicize the GRE scores. We did not do it, and probably we will not do it. They
Mhm.
should be reasonable, as we say. Remember, the admission to the program is being done based on the totality of your record. So if, for example, something is weak in your record, say less than 3.0, your GPA and the graduate GPA, you still could be admitted to the program on the conditional level. And then if you perform well in the program for the first 3 classes, you will be automatically converted into the regular student with all the credits that courses. So therefore, the GRE, again, it's totality of the record. We look at the entire package. Now, for the PhDs, you don't have to get the master's degree on the way to PhD, but many students, when they accumulate enough units, they simply ask the school to process it and they get master's and continue towards PhD. With the screening exam, because it was specifically mentioned in the question, you don't have to have a master's degree, but to prepare for the screening exam, the department suggests to students a few courses that might be helpful to prepare for the exam. And these courses are required courses really for the Master of Science program. So by taking these courses, you're already halfway to the master's degree, and you can be well prepared for the screening exam. But you don't, there's no requirement that you have to have a master's degree for the screening exam.
Mhm. Thank you, Professor Gruntman, for that. Okay, another question that we got is, how many hours of homework or study per night should we expect for ASTE 575? Is this a good class to begin with, or what class is recommended for someone who has been out of school for the last 2 years?
So let me say about the time for any class. So it's not necessarily 575 is rocket and spacecraft propulsion, it's a required class. So let me just say in general, a 3-unit course at USC, at many other institutions, means 3 hours of lectures plus approximately 6 hours per week, 3 hours of lectures per week, plus 6 hours per week of homework, additional reading, meeting with this teaching assistants during the office hours, meeting with the instructor during the office hours, and additional work related to the course. So it's a roughly amount of time. This is on average. If the course that you take, you have some background in this area, more knowledge, say, than average student, then this you will need less time for the homework assignments and the meeting with the teaching assistants. If this is a completely new area and you are weak in this area, some deficiencies in your background, then it will take more time. But on average, a 3-unit course is 3 hours of lecture time plus 6 hours of homework and additional reading and doing other stuff. Now, which courses to take if you had you're a little bit rusty in some areas? It's my usual advice is to take something in the field that you are better familiar, have more background than the completely new field, because a completely new field would require perhaps more work, even if you are not rusty. You're just coming straight from the undergraduate studies, you're coming straight to the graduate school. So it's if you have some background, some knowledge, or for example, you worked in a certain area in industry, so this would be a good idea, but it doesn't have to be. So whether it's a 6 hours extra time or 8 hours extra time, it probably won't make too much difference in your lifetime. However, it is important that if you are working full time and your workload is very individual, some people who work in industry, they have a lot of plenty of time for drinking coffee and discussing the baseball games, so they have plenty of time to study. Others busting their tails 12 hours a day. It's a very individual, but it's a good idea to start studies in the online program, taking only one course per semester. And then by the end of that semester, you would know whether your workload in the day job allows you to take 2 courses in the next semester, or maybe to stay with one course.
Mhm. Exactly. Yes, Dr. Gruntman. Starting off with one course first and then seeing how they get on in terms of time management. So another question that we just got that came in is, have people been admitted for the Masters of Astronautical Engineering and then continued as PhD candidate?
Yes, the short answer is yes.
Mhm. Thank
So
you.
I would say probably one half of our PhD students are in this category.
Perfect.
Dr. Gurman, if I may add,
Yes.
it's not a transition from the master's to PhD. Even our master students that become alumni have to apply to the PhD to the applicant pool every year. So it's just contingent on that PhD applicant pool. It's not a transitional program. You would have to apply just like everyone else.
Yes, correct. And one of the reasons for that, you always have to remember that in PhD, it's very close relation with the faculty advisor. That means that the student interests should match somebody's faculty expertise, and this faculty should have ongoing research program in this particular area of student interest. So a student have to apply, and then the faculty makes a decision whom admit and whom not. We actually decline a number of very qualified applicants to the PhD program simply because of this mismatch of the students' interest, in expertise of faculty, and availability of faculty to guide the student. But Louis is absolutely correct that it's no automatic transition, but still one half of our PhD students, they are former master students, because when you're in the master students, especially in the on-campus program, you interact with faculty, you establish relations with faculty, and you know who is doing what, and maybe volunteering in their research program. So that's again.
Thank you both so much for answering that question. Okay, the last question that we have is, what is the process for a master's student to become a teaching or research assistant?
The answer is no process. The university does not, university rules do not allow Master of Science students to become TAs or RAs. It is reserved by the university regulations to the doctoral students. Master of Science students can work as the graders in the courses, and they also can be hired by research programs on an hourly basis. So which does not carry tuition remission and other benefits that RAs and TAs would have. So it's against the university regulation. So on hourly basis, Master of Science students, as any other student, can be hired by research projects conducted by the faculty.
Thank you. Okay, so I don't see any more questions come through. So thank you everyone for your questions. Okay, there's another question. So how do scholarships work for Master of Astronautical Engineering? Okay, so USC Viterbi does offer, there are numerous scholarships that is available. And there is going to be a link in my follow-up email to you guys. And so I do encourage you to click on that link because it does show you, the various scholarships we have available for on-campus students and online students. So just touching on online scholarships for online students, we do have one scholarship, which is a merit-based scholarship, which is a Dana Viterbi scholarship. Essentially, you need to have at least a 3.0 GPA from an undergraduate institution, as well as being fully funded, being partial funded or not fully funded by your employer. And so if you have any questions about the Dana Viterbi scholarship, you could contact me and I'll be able to provide you more information on that. But there will be a link in my follow-up email to everyone in terms of navigating you to the scholarship page on our website. So thank you so much, for everyone for joining today's session, and a very, very big thank you to, Professor Gruntman and Louise for taking the time and sharing with us all the exciting initiatives that is happening within the Astronautical Engineering Department. For everyone watching as well, hope that you also found it informative and very insightful. So don't hesitate to email us or to schedule a phone call with me if you have any questions. And take care. And as we say at USC, fight on.
All right.
Thank you.